I once thought I was the happiest person in the world. To raise money for my terminally ill boyfriend's medical expenses, I sold my mother's keepsakes and worked 3 jobs. I was exhausted, but I didn't mind. That was until the day I pushed open the private room door and saw him surrounded by a group of people, drinking whiskey and laughing, saying I was nothing more than a plaything in his Cinderella game. It turned out the man I had given my all to love had been deceiving me from the very beginning. Ethan, is the Cinderella game fun? What kind of spell did Luna cast on you to make you go to such lengths for this boring act? Ethan didn't answer immediately. He took a slow sip of his drink, a smile hidden in his eyes that sent a shiver down my spine. He reached out and gently stroked the woman's cheek, then lowered his head and kissed her. The private room was filled with an ambiguous atmosphere, making my presence feel so out of place. The woman giggled, feigning annoyance. Ethan, don't be like that. Come to my place tonight. I promise you'll have a good time. Only then did Ethan withdraw his hand, saying mockingly, "This is why Luna is fun. She's so pure. Unlike you, so eager to throw yourself at any man you see." The woman flung herself into his arms, laughing hysterically. "Oh, you can't say that about me." I felt suffocated, struggling to swallow the bitterness welling up in my heart. At that moment, I finally knew for sure, this hypocritical monster before me was Ethan, the boyfriend I had lived in poverty with for 4 years. 6 months ago, Ethan, with red eyes, broke up with me. "Luna, let's break up. I don't want to drag you down." In that instant, my tears fell uncontrollably. Why break up? Did something happen? I clung to him tightly, looking up at him in disbelief. Ethan was silent for a moment, then pulled out a diagnosis report. I took it and saw amyotrophic sclerosis (ALS) written in bold letters. My world collapsed at that moment, my voice choked with tears. How could this happen? Ethan didn't speak, he just held me tightly. I felt dampness on my shoulder. "Luna, I don't want you to see me looking so wretched and ugly in the late stages of ALS." His voice trembled slightly, filled with despair. "I'll move out tomorrow. While I can still move, let me hold you properly one last time." My eyes turned red with anger, and I hit his back hard, sobbing. "What do you take my feelings for you for? How could I let you bear this pain alone? Of course, we'll face it together, but treatment costs amounted to millions, an astronomical sum for a recent college graduate like me." After a long pause, he released me, looking somewhat dejected, his voice low and hoarse. "Luna, I don't want to get treatment anymore. I just want to spend this last time with you." Seeing his fragile expression, I forced a smile and gently comforted him. "Don't worry, I'll find a way." I only had a few $1,000s in my savings, which was a mere drop in the bucket for the treatment fees. I sat quietly on the bed, staring blankly at the cabinet. My mother's keepsakes were there, a set of jewelry, the only valuable thing I owned. On one side was my boyfriend of 4 years, and on the other, my mother's legacy. I was faced with a difficult choice. That night, I curled up at the head of the bed, hugging myself tightly, tears streaming down my face, blaming myself incessantly. "I'm sorry, Mom. Your daughter is a failure. Your daughter is unfilial." When I was at my most desperate, it was Ethan who pulled me out of the mire. Now that he was in trouble, I couldn't abandon him. The next day, I sold the keepsakes and moved with Ethan into a damp basement apartment, but the money still wasn't enough to cover the expensive treatment. Because of this, I had to give up the internship I had just found and took on 3 part-time jobs. Every day, I worked from dawn till dusk, shuttling between a bar, a convenience store, and a tutoring center. I was so exhausted I was almost dizzy. Just to save a little more money to help me work, Ethan always went to the hospital alone. At that time, I only blamed myself for being incapable of taking complete care of him. Now, I felt like a clown, a dog with no dignity, from the compliments people paid him. It was not difficult to guess Ethan's identity. He was wealthy and influential. Even though the private room was warm, I felt a chill run through my body. "Hey, what are you standing there for, like an idiot? Don't you have any sense? Hurry up and pour Ethan a drink. You useless good for nothing. You deserve to work for others your whole life." A young man impatiently shouted. I snapped out of my, and stiffly poured drinks for the group of playboys. As I passed by Ethan, I caught a familiar scent on him, and for a moment, I was disoriented. My hand trembled, and I accidentally spilled some liquor on his suit. The woman next to him immediately stood up, pointing her finger at my nose and cursing. "Are you out of your mind? Ethan's suit costs half your lifetime's wages. Can you afford to pay for it? I hastily got up, intending to use tissues to wipe off the spilled drink, but the woman slapped me hard. She pulled me away from Ethan, then contemptuously poured the rest of the champagne over my head. You slut, look at you. Even streetwalkers look better than you. Do you seriously think your cheap tricks will seduce Ethan? Everyone burst into laughter, and I was so mortified I wished the floor would swallow me whole. Champagne dripped down my face, smudging my cheap makeup. My face must have looked hideous. I saw the man in the center of the booth chuckle, seeming pleased. I used to be so infatuated with Ethan's voice, especially when he held his second-hand guitar and sang to me on the balcony of our small rental apartment. However, at this moment, his familiar laughter pierced my ears. Just as I was about to silently retreat with the tray, I heard Ethan's cold voice. Stop, you offended me, and you think you can just leave? I don't think you can afford to pay for that. Here's the deal. Drink this bottle, and what happened tonight will be forgotten. Saying that, he pushed an unopened bottle of hard liquor towards me. I stood rooted to the spot, hesitant to take the drink. My voice trembled as I said, I'm sorry, I'm allergic to alcohol. However, the deafening electronic music drowned out my voice. Ethan frowned, seemingly not having heard what I said. The woman who had just poured champagne on me heard it, and she sneered, alcohol allergy. What kind of act is this? Just trying to get Ethan's attention, aren't you? Ethan waved his hand and pointed to the overturned fruit platter on the floor. Since you can't drink, then get on the floor and eat these fruits. My heart sank. Before I could react, I was pushed to the ground. Stop playing games. Eat quickly. A man roughly grabbed my hair. I struggled to get up but was held down firmly. Someone picked up the fruit from the floor and forcefully shoved it into my mouth. No, I can't eat mango. I mumbled, but no one paid attention to my words. Cold, sticky fruit pulp smeared my cheeks and lips. Someone pinched my chin, forcing me to swallow the fruit in my mouth. I felt my throat begin to itch, and my breathing became difficult. I curled up on the ground, coughing violently, feeling my airway begin to swell. Panic and despair overwhelmed me. I knew the allergic reaction was rapidly setting in. Ethan looked down at me, a hint of confusion in his eyes, seemingly surprised by my reaction, but he quickly shifted his gaze, as if I were just an insignificant diversion. My dignity, trampled underfoot by the man I loved most, the bitterness in my heart could no longer be suppressed. I curled up on the ground. After finally catching my breath, I suppressed the churning in my stomach and painstakingly stood up, my legs trembling. I prepared to leave. But Ethan called out again, You did well. This watch is for you. Sell it, and it'll be enough for you to live comfortably for the rest of your life. I looked at him indifferently, trying to find a trace of the Ethan I knew on that familiar face. Unfortunately, I found nothing. Just as I reached out to take the watch, he suddenly chuckled softly. You're so much like my girlfriend. Even the alcohol and mango allergies are exactly the same, but she's not as materialistic as you. If it were her, she definitely wouldn't accept it, girlfriend. I sneered inwardly. How ironic. I silently withdrew my hand, but Ethan threw the watch into my arms. It's dirty. Just take it and get out. The watch alone looked incredibly valuable, a luxury item completely out of reach for someone from my humble background. At this moment, I realized that one watch could be worth my entire life's effort. I turned to leave. Before I had gone far, I heard someone ask Ethan, seriously, that woman even sold her mother's keepsakes for you. Don't you feel anything? Ethan didn't speak, merely twirling the lighter in his hand nonchalantly. He chuckled, just a dog. The woman who can make me fall in love hasn't appeared in this world yet. My breathing became more rapid, the allergic reaction making me feel like I could suffocate at any moment. I knew it. Ethan always plays the field without getting attached, so that woman must be really good at pleasing someone, right? When you're done with her, maybe you can let us brothers have a taste. Before he could finish, Ethan kicked him to the ground, picked up a bottle from the table, and smashed it over the man's head. The broken glass cut his hand, and blood flowed freely. Ethan's eyes were cold, as if he were looking at a corpse. You think you're worthy? No one dared to step forward to stop him. Someone cautiously reminded him, Ethan, don't get angry. If you're injured, it'll be hard to explain when you go back. Hearing this, Ethan calmed down, gestured for everyone to be quiet, and called my phone. My phone in my pocket suddenly vibrated, piercingly loud in the silent private room. I hastily pressed the hang-up button, about to leave, but he called out to me. Wait, my heart pounded, and the color drained from my face. Lift your head, Ethan commanded coldly. I took a deep breath and slowly raised my head. I could feel my face swelling from the allergic reaction, and sticky fruit pulp still clung to it, making me look utterly disheveled. Ethan frowned, examining my face carefully. He stared at me for a while, a flicker of confusion in his eyes, quickly replaced by disgust. "You're truly hideous," he said with loathing. "Get out," as soon as I pushed the door open and stepped out. I heard someone ask Ethan what he thought of me, his lips curved slightly, nonchalant. "I just love seeing her work like a slave for me. It's so much fun to watch her fall deeply in love with me, and then push her into the abyss." Everyone burst into laughter. I trembled all over, the suffocating feeling in my chest almost making me lose my balance. I wanted so badly to rush in and confront him, but the vast disparity in our statuses made me swallow that urge. I simply couldn't afford to offend him. I stumbled into the employee break room, trembling as I swallowed the anti-allergy medication I carried with me, then curled up in a corner. Half an hour later, the manager pushed open the door, gasped at my dreadful state, and rushed to my side. "Luna, are you all right?" I shook my head, forcing out a reply. "Ms. Sarah, I won't be coming tomorrow. My boyfriend is already dead." I had told her about Ethan's illness before, and she had specifically arranged for me to work in areas with good tips. Now, suddenly quitting, I felt a little guilty. She didn't ask further, just gently hugged me. After returning to my rental apartment, I inexplicably opened my phone and searched for Ethan's information. A prominent trending topic on social media caught my eye. Westbridge Ethan racing with top in rain. The accompanying picture showed him standing arrogantly on the roof of a red Ferrari, arm around a sexy woman, his smile wild and unrestrained. This was the real him. I crumbled at that moment. I recalled our first meeting. He was wearing faded jeans, his expression reserved and uneasy. He was a completely different person from the confident, ruthless Ethan I saw tonight at the bar. I couldn't help but mock myself. He's such a good actor. He really deserves an Oscar. Ever since he fell ill, I had woken up at 5 every morning to catch the subway. To save money for his medical expenses, I lived frugally, eating only ramen noodles and day-old bread, making sure to buy items that were about to expire. I worked as a tutor, handed out flyers, and never complained. So many times, I was so tired I nearly fainted. My friends advised me not to push myself so hard. I always smiled and said it was nothing. All I got in return were their disapproving glances of disappointment. Recalling it now, I just felt utterly ridiculous. Back then, I thought all the hardship was worth it, because the old Ethan truly made me feel that he loved me very, very much. My parents passed away from illness, one after another, just before I graduated college. I blamed myself, thinking if I had noticed their illnesses sooner, maybe the outcome would have been different. Because of this, I developed severe depression and anorexia. In just 6 months, I became a skeleton. At 167 centimeters, I weighed only 65 pounds even in a winter coat. The day I met Ethan, I was wandering on the rooftop, thinking that a single jump would end this painful life. He found me, pulled me back, and hugged me tightly. He was truly kind back then. Due to long periods of irregular eating, I developed a severe stomach illness. After we got together, Ethan worked and took care of me, even though he was constantly busy. He never forgot to remind me to drink water and eat on time. He would rush home during his lunch break to cook for me, making sure he saw me eat lunch with his own eyes. After work, no matter how late, he would cook whatever I wanted. Ethan was the only light for me in my despair, someone I yearned to hold on to with all my might, but it wasn't until I saw a different Ethan in the bar that I realized it was all fake. I suppose this was part of his game too, to make me experience the despair of falling from heaven to hell. My phone suddenly vibrated. I opened it and saw a message from Ethan. "Luna, I'm so tired today. I want to rest early. Can you come see me tomorrow?" It was accompanied by a cute emoji, perhaps because he was injured. Ethan sent the message to explain, afraid I would suspect something. Perfect. I didn't want to see him either. I tossed my phone aside and began packing my things. If I can't provoke him, can't I at least avoid him? I packed a few simple clothes. My gaze was suddenly drawn to the bracelet on my wrist. I gently caressed the bracelet, and my eyes couldn't help but redden again. Ethan had personally woven it for me after we started dating. At that time, he had just started working, and his salary wasn't high, but for our anniversary, he secretly took a part-time job delivering packages for a courier company. He left early and returned late every day. My heart gradually became uneasy. and I grew suspicious. Like an out-of-control madwoman, I cried and questioned him. Ethan realized he had neglected me and kept promising that he hadn't done anything to betray me. But he just wouldn't tell me what he was doing behind my back. I was very angry and gave him the silent treatment. Until our anniversary, he prepared a sky full of fireworks and this bracelet for me. There was also a small golden bead hanging on the bracelet. I burst into tears. Ethan, you bastard. Why didn't you tell me? Why couldn't you tell me? Do you think doing this makes you so great, and makes me seem unreasonable and difficult? Since I got sick, my emotions had been very unstable. I thought he would get angry and scold me for being ungrateful and heartless, but he surprisingly apologized to me first, softening his voice to comfort me. Luna, I was wrong. From now on, I'll tell you everything. Ethan will have no secrets from Luna from now on. You fool. Was that why I was angry at him? Seeing the frostbite on his hands from riding his scooter for long hours delivering packages, I held his hand, my heart aching, half threatening, half pleading. I told him not to do such things for our anniversary again. Ethan grinned. As you wish, King. Now, even knowing it was all fake, I still couldn't bring myself to hate him. I just wanted to disappear from his world. Ethan's watch was indeed valuable. I sold it for $6 million. Then I contacted the previous jeweler, hoping to buy back my mom's keepsakes, but I was told that the jewelry set had already been sold. Without time for sadness, I left the bracelet in the rental apartment in the last second before boarding the airplane. I sent Ethan one final message. Let's break up. You win. After deleting all memories, I pulled out my SIM card and broke it. I came to Riverton, my mom's dream city, before meeting Ethan. I had always dreamed of opening my own coffee shop because of his illness. This plan was delayed for a long time now. I used the money I had to take over a small storefront. I cut my long hair, dyed it chestnut, and bid farewell to the past. The coffee shop business gradually picked up, and I began to enjoy this busy and fulfilling life. If I hadn't met Alex, everything might have been better that day. After closing, I was about to lock up when a man stumbled into the shop and pulled me behind the bar. Don't make a sound. Help me. His voice was urgent and low, with a hint of threat. I looked at him in horror. The man was dressed in a suit, but his clothes were disheveled, and his face was tense and wary. I instinctively tried to pull out my phone to call the police, but he immediately noticed and grabbed my wrist tightly. Don't call the police, or we'll both be in trouble. My face turned pale from the pain, but I still managed to stay silent. All right, but don't try anything. After about 10 minutes, the footsteps outside gradually faded. Only then did the man breathe a sigh of relief and release my hand. Sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. I'm a private detective. I was tracking a suspect for a case just now and accidentally got exposed. Only then did I notice his appearance. Under his messy black hair was a face with sharp features and a pair of piercing dark eyes. My name is Alex. As an apology, let me buy you dinner. I wanted to refuse, but he had already pulled me out of the door without asking. In the days that followed, Alex would occasionally drop by the coffee shop to show his apology. He voluntarily helped me with various chores, and sometimes when the shop was busy, he would even help me greet customers. Unknowingly, I had been with Alex for over a week. He asked me out to dinner again, at the table. I asked seriously, Alex, how long are you going to stay at my shop? His movements paused, then he nonchalantly said, What, already trying to get rid of me? I glared at him. I don't trust you yet. Who sent you? Perhaps my reaction was too direct. Alex laughed so hard he bent over. Finally, he mumbled, definitely interesting. My heart jumped. This guy definitely had something going on. I pretended not to hear and lowered my head to eat my rice. What kind of act was this now? He didn't seem like someone on the run, nor did he seem like he wanted to harm me. Instead, he was constantly trying to please me. He was so good to me, and it definitely couldn't be for an old-fashioned reason like love at first sight. There must be something he wanted from me. But what did I have that was worth all his effort? That day, after the last customer left the coffee shop, I began my routine closing duties. Outside, the night deepened, and pedestrians on the street were few and far between. Just as I was about to lock the door, a figure suddenly appeared outside the glass door. My heart instantly pounded, and the key in my hand almost dropped to the floor. It was Ethan. He was impeccably dressed in a suit, his face indistinct in the shadows. I instinctively took 2 steps back, and he pushed the door open. Luna, long time no see. His voice was still gentle, as if we were just reunited after a long separation. I suppressed the fear in my heart and said coldly, "Ethan, how did you find this place?" He chuckled softly, looking around. "Nice little shop. Knowing you've been doing well lately makes me feel a little relieved. Thanks to you," I said sarcastically. "Are you tired of high-end cuisine or bored with mansions? Want to experience commoner life again?" Ethan's expression stiffened for a moment, but he quickly returned to normal. "Luna, I can explain." Just then, Alex came in from the back door. I gave him a cold look, and he guiltily averted his gaze. "So Ethan hired you?" "Luna, I'm sorry." The familiar suffocating feeling engulfed me, and panic began to spread. My hand stealthily reached for the alarm button under the counter. "So this is another meticulously designed game." Ethan walked towards me. "No. Luna, I truly love you. It might have started as a game, but later enough." I interrupted him sharply. "Is your love deception and harm?" My hand unconsciously touched my wrist. Ethan noticed my movement, and his eyes softened slightly. "You remember that bracelet, don't you?" "I forgot long ago," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Ethan moved closer to me. "Luna, come back with me. I'll treat you better than before." "Don't come any closer," I interrupted him, my voice trembling slightly. "I've already called the police, Ethan. I'd rather love a dog than love you again." The air instantly froze. Ethan's expression darkened, and a hint of cruelty flashed in his eyes. He spoke slowly, his voice low and dangerous. "Luna, you must love me, and you can only love me." I stared at the crazy man before me in horror, my heart pounding. Ethan grabbed my wrist, his grip so strong it felt like he would crush my bones. "You'll never escape me." I struggled to shake off his hand, but he easily restrained me. I looked desperately at Alex. Alex had his head down. Not daring to meet my eyes, he said to Ethan, "Mr. Chen, the mission is complete. The payment, it's already in your account." Ethan interrupted him coldly, not even sparing him a glance. I couldn't help but sneer. "What, Mr. Chen, have you realized there's no pet as obedient as me, and now you regret it? Or do you think I suddenly became valuable?" Ethan frowned. "Luna, don't talk to me in that tone." I turned my face away in disgust. "Ethan, you sicken me." I looked at Alex, who was standing there foolishly and throwing caution to the wind. I pointed at him and said to Ethan, "I like him now. I couldn't help but sleep with him when he was with me." Ethan's face instantly turned pale, while Alex frantically explained, "Mr. Chen, I swear that's not true. You know my professional integrity." I sneered in retaliation. "Then why did you feed me at the restaurant and cover me with a blanket?" Before I could finish, Ethan suddenly waved his hand, and 2 bodyguards appeared out of nowhere, dragging Alex out. I instantly fell silent. Ethan turned back, his eyes filled with complex emotions. "Luna, I brought that bracelet." He pulled the bracelet I once cherished from his pocket and carefully tried to put it on my wrist. I coldly slapped his hand away, and the bracelet fell to the floor. "Ethan, if you're just unwilling to let go, then dump me 100 times after that, we're even. Okay? I'm tired." Ethan pushed me against the wall. "Impossible." I struggled desperately, but I was no match for him. Just then, hurried footsteps sounded outside the door. "Mr. Chen, the police are here. We have to leave immediately." The bodyguard's voice was urgent. Ethan suddenly picked me up by the waist. I shrieked and struggled violently, but his strength was astonishing. "Let me go. This is kidnapping." I screamed hoarsely, but Ethan ignored me. I was roughly shoved into a waiting black car, and Ethan quickly followed. Getting in, the car door slammed shut with a bang, the engine roared, and the car sped away from the coffee shop. I looked at Ethan in horror, my voice trembling. What do you want to do?" Ethan's face looked unusually grim in the dim car interior. He spoke slowly. "Luna, this time, I won't let you escape again." I was held captive by Ethan in his private estate. What was even harder to accept was that I was pregnant. Ethan seemed determined to use this to tie me down. Every day, he would come to see me with various gifts, but my depression worsened. I hated this world, and even more, I hated Ethan, the one who caused it all. I couldn't eat anything. After 5 consecutive days without eating, Ethan sat by my bed with a bowl of tonic soup, pleading with me. "Luna, please just eat something." Like a madwoman, I screamed, raised my hand, and knocked the soup out of his hand. The hot soup scalded his hand, but he acted as if nothing had happened, instructing the butler, "She doesn't like bitter flavors. Go make chicken soup instead." I looked at his feigned tenderness and felt even more nauseated. "Ethan, do you have a masochistic streak? I don't love you, right now. I wish I could kill you and this abominable child inside me, I said coldly. Hearing this, Ethan's face turned pale. But he quickly recovered. He hugged my waist, buried his head in my lap, and murmured in a low voice, "Keep him. At least as a reason for you to live. Having him will only make me want to die more." I pushed him away, hid under the blanket, and pretended not to hear his sob. Since being held captive, I had tried to escape, but I was always easily caught. This place suffocated me. Once, I even smashed a vase and used the shards to hurt myself. Ethan arrived in time and stopped me. His eyes were filled with an impenetrable sadness. "Luna, do you really detest me so much? Can't even our child keep you?" "Yes," I answered without hesitation. From then on, Ethan rarely appeared before me. I thought he had finally come to his senses, but then, that night, Ethan suddenly burst into my room. His appearance startled me. His shirt was disheveled, and his eyes were filled with despair. "Luna," he murmured, "if I had been honest with you from the beginning, would we not have ended up like this?" I didn't speak, only feeling extremely annoyed. There were no ifs. Perhaps the beginning would have been different, but the outcome would have been the same. He was a golden boy, a renowned business tycoon in Westbridge. I was just an ordinary person. A prince falls in love with Cinderella storyline happening to me would only feel absurd. Ethan staggered towards me and suddenly knelt on the floor. I looked at him in surprise, unsure of what he was doing. "Luna, I truly can't live without you." He looked up at me, tears welling in his eyes, but I don't know what to do. I felt a little angry, thinking he was playing games again, and couldn't help but yell at him, "What to do? We can just destroy each other, and no one gets out alive." "I don't want you to die, Luna." He called my name repeatedly, his voice gradually fading. Then, he pulled a sharp small knife from his pocket. Before I could react, he had savagely slit his own wrist. "Ethan, what are you doing?" I screamed in horror, but he suddenly turned and ran towards the balcony. I chased after him, fear washing over me like a tide. "No!" I shrieked, reaching out to grab him. However, Ethan had already climbed over the balcony railing. In the moment of falling, his eyes seemed to hold a sense of release. I desperately stretched out my hand and finally caught his hand at the last second, but my strength was too little. I couldn't support his weight at all. I was pulled forward, almost falling with him. "Let go, Luna." He looked up at me, a bitter smile on his face. "Don't sacrifice your life for me. You're crazy. Hold on tight," I cried, trying desperately to pull him up. My arm trembled from the effort. His hand slowly loosened, his eyes full of relief. "I'm sorry, Luna. I love you." These were his last words, his voice so faint it was barely audible. I watched him fall, my heart feeling as though it had stopped beating. I rushed to the stairs, stumbling down. My mind was blank. Bursting out of the door, I saw Ethan lying on the ground, under the moonlight. His body appeared especially pale and fragile. I knelt beside him, gently cradling him in my arms. His body still held some warmth, but I couldn't feel his breathing. "Ethan, wake up. Please wake up." Tears flowed uncontrollably down my face. My hand touched the wound on his wrist. Warm blood was still slowly oozing out. I quickly pressed my sleeve against the wound, futilely trying to stop the bleeding. Ethan took his last breath in my arms. A faint smile seemed to linger on his lips, as if he had finally shed all his burdens. I felt his body grow cold. My mind blank. Ethan unconditionally bequeathed all his property to me. I held the bracelet he had woven for me, sitting alone from late night until dawn. The private doctor, looking distressed, walked up to me and said, "Miss, you haven't slept all night. Please go upstairs and rest. Otherwise Mr. Chen will be saddened in heaven." He choked up at the end, looking at me with worry. Hearing the address, "Miss," I suddenly came back to my senses. Yes, Ethan and I hadn't even formalized our relationship. Yet now I was the heir to all his assets. This doctor was new. He didn't understand the complex relationship between Ethan and me, naively believing I was just a pitiable woman who had lost her loved one. "Miss, please make sure to get some good rest. If not for yourself, at least consider the child in your belly." Right, I still had his child. Now that Ethan was gone, I could freely decide the child's fate. But why did the thought of giving up make my heart ache so much I could barely breathe? With the doctor's help, I returned to the bedroom. That night, Ethan did not appear in my dreams. Perhaps he was afraid to see my disgust for him. The next day, Ethan's personal assistant delivered his belongings. As he was leaving, the assistant said to me meaningfully, "Ms. Luna, Mr. Ethan actually loved you more than you could imagine." I lowered my head in silence, pretending not to hear his sigh, then turned and went back to my room. What had asked his assistant to give me was a USB drive. I stood on the balcony in a daze, gazing at the distant city lights. After a long time, I finally mustered the courage to insert the USB drive. The screen lit up, and Ethan's face appeared in the frame. He looked haggard but calm, and began to speak. "Luna, my love, please forgive me for calling you this one last time. I know this might make you angry, but I couldn't help but indulge myself one last time. You'll bear with me, won't you? I've actually always regretted it. I've thought countless times, if our meeting hadn't involved so much scheming, would you perhaps not hate me so much? But there are no such what-ifs." He gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Luna, I bought your mother's belongings back. They're in the safe in the study. Perhaps this will lessen your hatred for me. Even if it doesn't, I won't be around to see it anyway. After I'm gone, you must take good care of yourself, eat on time, go out more often. I can only rest easy if you're healthy and well." He choked up slightly, rubbed his red eyes, and took a deep breath. "As for the child, if you truly don't want it, then follow your heart. I really wanted to stay by your side. I couldn't bear to let you go, but I also knew clearly that I was the source of your pain. Luna, you are the only person I can't let go of in this world. I never told you about my past. I was actually an adopted child of the Cheng family. My adoptive mother had a pathological possessiveness over me. She controlled me in various ways, and even used some sickening methods to force herself upon me. Those memories still fill me with shame and fear to this day. And my adoptive father, he died of a heart attack after killing my adoptive mother. A tragedy brought an end to this dysfunctional family. I inherited their fortune. But I was also burdened with an inescapable psychological trauma. My constant testing of your feelings for me stemmed from my fear and distrust of intimacy. But you're different from others. Luna, you're an angel. Please forgive my selfishness and cowardice. I truly hope you can find happiness, even if that happiness has nothing to do with me. Live well, Luna. I'm going to atone for my sins." The video ended there. By the time I reacted, my face was already wet with tears. I sympathized with his plight. But that wasn't a reason for him to hurt me. He couldn't use his own suffering to ruin my life. The next morning, I still scheduled an abortion procedure. I couldn't forget the hellish experience of that day. Everything connected to Ethan, I had to let go of completely. After dealing with everything, I boarded a flight to Riverton. I watched as the city's outline gradually blurred, transforming into a dense cluster of lights. All the noise and commotion that had once tormented me now seemed so distant. I told myself, things will be okay. Everything will be okay.